Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will turn the pages of I Am the Messenger by Markus Zusak. I Am the Messenger is a 2002 novel by Markus Zusak, celebrated for his work The Book Thief. This coming-of-age tale follows Ede Kennedy, an underachieving 19-year-old cab driver who inadvertently becomes a hero during a bank robbery. Soon after, Ede begins receiving mysterious playing cards with cryptic instructions, propelling him into a journey of self-discovery, human connection, and courage. Set in suburban Australia, this story blends humor, suspense, and profound themes of purpose and kindness. Plot summary: Ede Kennedy lived a life that was profoundly ordinary. 19 years old, underage for his job as a cab driver, he resided in a decrepit house with his elderly dog, the doorman, as his only consistent companion. He spent his days driving passengers who rarely noticed him and his nights playing cards with his closest friends, Marv, Richie, and Audrey. Ede was an unremarkable figure, someone who had resigned himself to the idea that his life would amount to little. That notion began to unravel one day when a clumsy bank robber interrupted his routine. Ede found himself in the middle of a chaotic holdup, lying face down with his friends. The robber, inept and nervous, left his gun behind in the scramble to escape. In a split-second decision, Ede pursued him, disarmed him, and held him until the police arrived. Overnight, Ede became a local hero, though he felt far from one. Then, as if summoned by that singular moment of courage, an envelope appeared in his mailbox. Inside was a playing card, the Ace of Diamonds. On it were written 3 cryptic addresses. Curiosity turned to unease as Ede decided to visit the first address. There, he witnessed a horrifying scene. A man returned home drunk, yelling at his wife and assaulting her as their daughter cried on the porch. Ede was paralyzed, unsure of how to intervene. The second address revealed an old woman living in solitude, her days filled with routines but devoid of companionship. At the third location, Ede saw a young girl training for a running event with no one to cheer her on. These encounters were the beginning of his transformation. The tasks on the Ace of Diamonds became clear. Ede was meant to act to help to make a difference. But how? With no guidance, he began to improvise. For the woman trapped in violence, he scrawled threatening messages in chalk for the abusive husband, warning him to stop. It was a dangerous gamble, but it worked. The man left his family. At the second address, Ede brought pies and sat with the old woman, listening to her stories and easing her loneliness. For the young runner, he gathered a crowd to cheer her on at a local event, giving her the encouragement she had been missing. When the tasks were completed, another card arrived, this time the Ace of Clubs. More names, more challenges. Ede found himself growing bolder, though not without fear. The new missions varied in complexity and moral ambiguity. One required him to befriend a lonely priest struggling to connect with his dwindling congregation. Another brought him to a single mother barely managing to care for her children, where a simple gesture of delivering Christmas lights brightened their lives. But not all tasks were so straightforward. In one instance, he was forced to confront a man with a gun, coercing him into leaving behind a life of crime. Each challenge forced Ede to step further out of his comfort zone and deeper into the lives of strangers. As more cards arrived, the Ace of Spades, the Ace of Hearts, Ede's personal relationships began to shift. Marv, always loud and tight-fisted, revealed a secret guilt that had haunted him for years, a child he had never met. Ede encouraged him to reach out, even as Marv resisted. Richie, quiet and aimless, found Ede pushing him to consider his potential. Audrey remained distant, her own fears of intimacy keeping her from acknowledging Ede's love. Yet she stayed by his side, watching him grow into someone who both inspired and bewildered her. The final card came, the Joker, delivering an unexpected twist. It led Ede to confront the person orchestrating these missions. To his astonishment, it was a figure he didn't know personally, but who had observed him closely. This mysterious individual revealed that the tasks had been a test, not of Ede's bravery, but of his humanity. The cards had been a way to show Ede that he had always been capable of making an impact, even in the small, forgotten corners of the world. In the aftermath, Ede was left with more questions than answers, but he had changed. He was no longer the complacent cab driver he had been before. He had found purpose, not in grand gestures but in the quiet power of kindness. Though his life was still humble, he understood its value. He had touched lives, and in doing so, he had transformed his own. That's it for now. If you enjoyed this, check out other books by Markus Zusak. You'll find them in the description or just search for them on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Markus Zusak's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.